360 Talk. There's plenty of ways where you can watch or listen, obviously, on 99.7 FM. I hope you're doing that. If not, I hope you're streaming us on a variety of platforms where you can find the internet stream. You can also find us over at 997WTN.com. And yes, indeed, you can find us, despite what you see there, you can find us on Talk TV. That is YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. And join us on the F&M Bank chat line when you do that. You can communicate with the show in a variety of ways. One, and it's my favorite way for you to communicate, to give us a call anytime during the proceedings. If I inspire you to offer an opinion of your own, well, there it is. I mean, that's how you would do it. You would get on that phone line, you would hear that dial tone, and then you would dial up these numbers, 615-737-9986. I give those numbers often and as quickly as possible just to keep you on your toes. 615-737-9986, and that is also the chat line via Super Text, and we love that feature. That's a relatively new feature to what we do on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and absolutely love it. Hell, I'm a relatively new feature on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and I love you being here for the course of 3 hours, whether we agree or disagree. And understand, disagreement there's nothing wrong with it, as long as you come at it earnestly and honestly. I hesitate that we would become that which we hate, which are liberal socialists, but I repeat myself. So the political left is absolutely freaking out today as this United States Supreme Court offers another fair-minded and reasonable opinion regarding affirmative action. The Constitution is sacrosanct, and the Constitution, according to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, has declared that you may not utilize conditions that are beyond your control, matters of your birth, as, pardon me for that noise, matters of your birth for reasons regarding college admissions. Justice Sonia Sotomayor says race continues to matter. There was a time, it's fascinating how the left has turned on this. They've done the same thing on sexuality. 20, 30 years ago, the political left was arguing that sexuality was a matter of one's birth, not of one's choosing, meaning the individual that you, or groups of individuals that you were attracted to. And because it was a condition of one's birth, you should not be judged negatively based on your sexuality. Obviously, we're talking about the homosexual community. Well, now they're arguing that your sexuality can change from moment to moment depending on how you feel about it. I mean, it's hard to catch up with the logic of their argument when their argument changes on a weekly or monthly or yearly basis. So at one point, the political left was arguing homosexuals should be treated fairly and equally to anybody else in the United States of America when it came to matters of government access, or the easiest example is obviously marriage. But nowadays, you're told that apparently sexuality is a choice. Hell, gender is a choice. It makes zero sense from a biological standpoint, but whatever. So now you're literally, many in the community, you're arguing the opposite of what you argued for years in an effort to get equal treatment under the law. And by the way, I was with you. I was with the homosexual community on their desire to get married. If they want to get married and live with the same person and be miserable, whatever. It has nothing to do with me, nor will it affect my life in any fashion whatsoever. And I still maintain that. But now, according to the gay pride parade in New York City, they're coming after your children. A similar thing is happening with the issue of race in America. Because there are so many people that make a tremendous amount of money on race. Understand that most of the objections to this affirmative action ruling have to do with one of two things: money or power and control. The political agenda dictates that the political left must continue to attempt to convince the African American community that it's their way or back to the plantation. That is the agenda of the Democrat Party. They must have at least a majority, and actually they need much more than a majority. They need like an 85% voting block of African-American voters by convincing them that the other individuals within the political discussion are racists, the Republicans in this case, or conservatives. When, in fact, it is the conservative argument today, the libertarian argument all along, that, of course, no one should be judged by a condition for which they had nothing to do with regard to admissions into our colleges and universities, with regard to access to government installations or institutions. Obviously, we should strive to be a colorblind society. We should strive to be a colorblind society. A society, dare I say it, where one is judged by the content of one's character as opposed to the color of one's skin. I don't know that Martin Luther King, and I don't do what these other people do. And, if MLK was alive today, he would be saying this or that. We have no idea what the man would be saying. At the same time, considering his words when he was alive, I have a hard time believing that he would be agreeable to this. That we should not be striving to judge individuals based on their character and what they bring to the table absent the color of their skin. But that is not what the left argues in the aftermath of the Supreme Court case. Quite the opposite. They demand that we must judge individuals by the color of their skin, at least when it applies to race and college admissions. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas and Sonia Sotomayor read their conflicting opinions on affirmative action from the bench today. Justices on the court can choose to read their opinions aloud from the bench in rare instances when they want to call special attention to their position. And according to this article from Fox News, Thomas did so for his concurring opinion with the court, ruling against affirmative action, while Sotomayor read her dissenting opinion. Today, and despite a lengthy interregnum, I think I'm saying that correctly, the Constitution prevails, Thomas declared. The 75-year-old justice lauded the majority opinion, overturning decades of U.S. judicial systems, allowing colleges and universities to reject or admit applicants based on their race, but also offered his own insight, saying, quote, I write separately to offer an originalist defense of the colorblind Constitution, to explain further the flaws of the court's Grutter jurisprudence, to clarify that all forms of discrimination based on race, including so-called affirmative action, are prohibited under the Constitution, and to emphasize the pernicious efforts of all such discrimination. What has happened, my analysis, before we delve further into Sotomayor's position, an industry has been created regarding race. And a lot of people have made a lot of money, not bringing us together, but dividing us. This is a major step forward in saying that not all, but many of the sins in our history, in America's past, have been repaired through policy. And at some point, I'm not suggesting that at some point affirmative action wasn't a noble and needed purpose. I think there was a time in America's history, certainly in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, where there was good and noble purpose for affirmative action policy in the United States of America to attempt, as best we possibly could, to repair some of the racial inequity that obviously existed over the course of our country and the course of our history. But at some point, if you truly value equality, you have to shut that down. Otherwise, it becomes punitive toward people of other races, and certainly not just white people. This has very little to do with white people. It has a lot to do with other people of color, like people of Asian heritage, who are being actively discriminated against in the United States of America with regard to the color of their skin in multiple ways. So I want your reaction to all of this, particularly if you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, you go to the front of the line. I'm very curious how you would defend the words of, for example, Sonia Sotomayor, who said the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment enshrines a guarantee of racial equality, Sotomayor began. The court long ago concluded that this guarantee can be enforced through race-conscious means in a society that is not and never has been colorblind. So she's giving up, in her words, the concept of color blindness under the law, which, the famous statue of Lady Justice, right? And Lady Justice is standing there. I think she's got a scale in one hand. She's got something else in the other hand or something or another.
Sword.
Is it a sword? Mm-hmm. We pronounce the W on this show, pal.
It's a sword.
Sword. Say it again. Sword.
Sword.
What are you doing over there?
I'm calling a guest that I'm trying to book.
Oh, okay. Thank you, by the way. But I forgot to introduce you again today. That's 2 days in a row. I don't know what I'm doing over here. Sometimes I forget. The lovely architect of the radio show.
I try not to call you out on the air because it's not my place, considering whose name is on the show.
It's apparently Dan Mandis' place to call me out. More on that in a moment.
The intro to the show has been a train wreck.
Has it?
You didn't even have the courtesy to tell your own audience Happy Friday Eve.
Oh, jeez. Why don't I even try? I mean, you know what? I am the tip of the spear on this. Ladies and germs, we've got to get together and stop this nonsense. Thursday is a perfectly acceptable day. And I don't understand why Friday's getting all the accolades anyway. Friday is an interloper. Friday doesn't deserve what Friday gets. I got to work on Friday. Most of us have to work on Friday, unless you're a weekend warrior and you get middle of the week days off, and we appreciate all of you. But for the vast majority of us, we work on Friday. Why is it Friday? Why is Thursday Friday Eve? Why is Friday not Saturday Eve, Bell?
It is.
Ugh. But I don't hear people talking about it.
Two puppies.
I don't hear it. I don't hear people yapping about it.
It's because you don't pay attention. That's why.
Don't. You just said something else that triggers me. Puppers and kiddos. I've got a list.
I heard the day you gave that list the day I was off and I was listening, and I made notes.
Oh my gosh! Be careful. Oh, can I go off for a second while you scroll me? Can I go off for a second? And I'm getting to your calls and all that.
Squirrel.
Can I announce another one for the list? Give me a horn or something. You got a horn over there? Like a little announcement horn. We ought to have a little da-da-dan. If we don't have a little da-da-da, we need to get one.
Yeah, I'll have to dig one up.
Like a little...
That's the closest I got.
That's not it. But thank you. I appreciate your efforts.
I'll find one for later.
Here's another one for the list that's really making the rounds here nowadays in Nashville because of what's about to occur today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Real feels. Real feels.
REE or REAL?
REALFEELS. As in, we've got a heat wave coming to Nashville, Tennessee, and all of Middle Tennessee is going to be feeling it. It'll be 102 degrees, but the real feels will be 113. What's the real feels outside right now? It used to be heat index, which I hate anyway, and now it's real feels.
You know what 101 degrees is?
101 degrees!
102, Eve.
Oh, jeez. I hate you. I wonder how much trouble would I get into if I beat you?
A lot.
I mean, I don't know that I could beat you, but just if I gave it a go.
Probably a lot, especially with me.
Yeah, it's true. And you'd go to HR. You'd sue me for some discriminatory purpose. By the way, did you listen to Nashville's morning news this morning?
No, not this morning.
There's a ridiculous attack going on against me in the fact that I agreed, I accepted. Now, tell me if I'm remembering this wrong.
Is this about the pickleball challenge?
Yes. Dan Mandis brought up pickleball on Nashville's morning news.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, hey, and he asked his compadres, they're on Nashville's morning news, his amigos, as he calls them, Johnny B. and Ken, if they would participate in a friendly game of pickleball against another show. This is the way that I remember it. And both of his guys, Ken and Johnny, told him no. That's how much faith they have in his athletic ability. But whatever. So he was like, don't you want to like take on, Murphy's show or take on whatever? And they said no. And so as a result, he said, well, maybe I'll take on Murphy. And then he proceeded to challenge me to a pickleball contest.
That's the way I understood it.
Well, now he's acting like I challenged him. I haven't challenged anyone to anything.
Well, you know what that means, don't you? Starting to sweat a little. He realizes a mistake.
I mean, Dan, if you're scared, say you're scared. I mean, that's okay. And he's out. He sends me a video yesterday of him walking in the heat. Oh, I'm coming after you, Murphy, it said on the video. Did he play that this morning, I wonder? I'll play it this afternoon. Coming after me, indeed. I'm going to go eat some cheeseburgers in training to whip up on Dan Mandis on pickleball because I love pickles. I have no idea how to play pickleball. I assume it has something to do with pickles. But I dig pickles, and I'm ready for it. So you bring it on, Dan. I'll tell you what.
This is never going to happen, and I'll tell you why. Because it's very obvious that he realizes he made a mistake in challenging you, and he's starting to back out, and he's trying to figure out how to do it with a bit of grace and dignity.
You know what Mandis is? My grandpa.
You mean besides the boss?
Well, that's true. My grandpa had a saying, all hat and no cattle. Mandis is all hat and no cattle. And then I happened to note he started coming after me for my clothing. Dan Mandis attacking someone else about their clothes. Oh, he wears those. He criticized me for wearing a Hawaiian shirt while his producer, Johnny B.,
was wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
A legend in Nashville, Tennessee, was wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
And Dan was probably wearing his jorts while he was criticizing you.
Dan Mandis, wears jean shorts. I have that on. I have that cold. That's provable fact. The man wears jean shorts. And if you wear jean shorts, you are legally not allowed to comment on anyone else's clothing.
This is true. It's a Supreme Court ruling.
Dan Mandis has, in his world, Mandis knows these colors as follows. Dark gray, light gray, and jean. Those are the four colors that Dan Mandis knows. At least that's all I've ever seen him wear. And he's criticizing me for my clothing choices?
And that Mercedes he drives is light gray, too.
So anyway, we heartily accept the Mandis position that he can, come on. Bring it on, buddy. Anyway, 1222, we'll get into the Supreme Court ruling and get your thoughts on it. David says I'm wrong again. Don is in Nashville, and we've got a couple of others on the line. Love to hear from you. 615-737-9996. As we get underway, it's The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. We live in Music City. They call it Music City for a reason. A lot of musicians around here. And Stokes Nielsen, a man that I've had the honor of getting to know, has written a song, and he wants to know who wants to record it. It's as simple as that, really. Stokes has a song. He has performed said song. Now he wants someone to record said song, and he wants to find the next great Middle Tennessee artist. Let's talk about it. It's called the Strength of America Song Project. Stokes wrote this song because of the honoring the 75th anniversary of the Women's Armed Services Integration Act. He performed said song at the Military Women's Memorial as a part of Women's Veterans Recognition Day. Now, he wants to know who wants to perform it. If you are a performer, if you're a singer or songwriter, or if you fashion yourself the same, why not contact Stokes and find out what the process is to get your demo in and to audition to become the recording artist of his brand new song. The Strength of America Song Project. Email him at strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. That's strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. Become a part of this wonderful patriotic project and get your name out there, and you might be the next Nashville, Tennessee music star. Strengthofamericasong@gmail.com. It is hot outside. I won't say that the real feels is 110, but I hear that the real feels is 110. And efficient heating and cooling can help if your AC is not operating up to snuff. Now's the time where it's under a strain, right? The AC, if it has a lot of life on it, might go kaput. I don't want it to happen. Jeff Eddy of Efficient Heating and Cooling doesn't want it to happen. I'm certain you don't want it to happen, but the fact of the matter is you're going to outlive your AC unit. And if it comes time to replace, where do you go? Well, I know this. Jeff Eddy's not going to replace unless it's necessary. If you can get another season out of that AC, he's going to help you do that. But when it comes time, they're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric. If you want to go the electrical route, they're also an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. And they're ready. They're ready and willing and able to get it done and get it done less expensive than some of these big boys. They don't have all that overhead to pay for. You never pay overtime on the weekends or evening. You pay the same 24/7. I love that about Jeff Eddy and his team. They're a good, solid company and the only one that I would recommend. Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net. EfficientHVAC.net. Remember what I tell you. If your AC goes... call Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling, 615-784-4424. It is 12:28. Hope you're enjoying your lunchtime, if that be what you're doing. There is a severe thunderstorm warning in progress for Davidson, Sumner, and where else did you tell me?
Wilson
County. That's my neck of the woods. Let's take a look at the map. Let's go on over to the map where we have a real feels temperature of blah, 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 blah. Golly, I hate it.
The warning extends to 1:10 p.m.
Hate everything about the heat index. Everything. That said, yeah, there's some nastiness coming our way. So if you are hunkered down, remain hunkered down. If you're not well, let me see. Hold on. Let's go to past. That would probably be the way to do it. Oh, yeah, there's a big old blob coming our way out of Kentucky. With a lot of red in said blob. So if you're in, just to give you a heads up, if you're in Gallatin, you're about to get popped. If you're in Springfield, you're currently getting popped. It's missing portions of Clarksville, but it's hitting other portions of Clarksville. And it is certainly heading our direction. Hold on. Wait for it. Wait for the radar to catch up. Okay, the radar just doesn't want to catch up. One way or the other, nastiness coming your way, and severe thunderstorm warnings have been announced. 615-737-9986. Let's get to David, who says I'm wrong on everything. Hey, David, how are you?
Well, not too bad, although I was going to ask you how you're getting hit by that bad smoke, right?
We're getting a little bit of smoke, sure. I mean, not as much as, Chicago, New York, or some of the northern places, but we're getting popped a little bit.
Well, looking at... out here, I'm out here in San Francisco, and when we were having those wildfires, there was one of the apps that you can go to is purpleair.com, and just type in your zip code or your state or whatever, and you'll be able to see where you're at. And when you look at Kentucky, eastern side of Kentucky, you're like at 250 parts per million, and central is missing it. Pittsburgh, though, is probably 250. And so further up you go, but you're in a bad way. And
what I think we should do, and I think you and I would agree on this, David. We don't agree on a lot of things over the years, but we might agree on this. Based on all of this smoke and the carcinogens and all of the damage that could be done to human beings, I think we should ban wildfires.
Well, are there any volunteer fire departments that are sending people up to Canada? Biden put 600 of them up there about a week ago anyway, and I would have put 5,000. I mean, if Canada can stand the amount of help, but this is pretty gruesome. And when you start looking at, I'm from St. Louis originally, and they were hit with 280 the other day parts per million, bad as Pittsburgh right now. And so it's and so now.
So I take that
Supreme Court ruling.
Can I count you as with me on the banning of the wildfires then?
Well, it's a funny little joke, and it'd be nice to see it happen, but it's the reality is that we need. United we stand, divided we fall, in order to get these fires taken care of, and for people to be,
Well, I think America's hat can take care of themselves.
Well, the real reason I called was about the Supreme Court ruling. Which
All right. Well,
basically,
I want to get into that, but I have to do this first because I've got to do this. I got to remain on time, David, and I'll give you a little bit to say because David is a liberal from out in San Francisco, and I love talking to people that disagree with me. I love peeling back the curtain and giving an opportunity for a political leftist to speak on my radio show because I think it's comedy gold. 615-737-9986. Back in a moment. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy. Let me tell you about a podcast that I love, I listen to, and I believe in. It's Steve Abramowitz and Mill Creek View, Tennessee. Steve's a good guy. You've heard him on a couple of occasions on the Matt Murphy Show, and you can hear him on his podcast. The Tennessean describes him as a conservative advocacy podcast. Let me tell you, I would describe him as good, common Tennessee sense. Right in Franklin, Tennessee. They focus on Franklin issues, Middle Tennessee issues, and really they expand to national and international discussions. But it's not just politics, despite the fact that they're frequently the number one show on politics on Podomatic. They also talk arts and entertainment, culture, and sports on Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify. You can find the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast, and I encourage you to particularly look up the Matt Murphy episode. You can look at others, maybe like the Dan Mandis episode, but I encourage the Matt Murphy. Steve is CEO and editor-in-chief of the Mill Creek View newspaper. Find them at mcview.us. That's mcview.us. It is Steve Abramowitz and Mill Creek View. Look it up. Hey, friends, it's Pat Murphy for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. I'm excited about August 4th through the 6th in downtown Nashville. You've been hearing me talk about it, and now's the big push because you need to get tickets before they are gone. The possibility is, there's a limit to the number of tickets that will be available, but right now, 3-day tickets are still there for you with premium hospitality tickets still available and 1-day tickets on sale. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, they've been putting on a heck of a show for the last several years, and it just keeps getting better with the Stadium Super Truck Saturday night racing, a family fun zone, and an early 11:30 a.m. start. If you've never experienced open wheel racing, it's a great time to do so and a great location, downtown Nashville. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, the India car event of the year in downtown. Go by MusicCityGP.com for your tickets for the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Get amped, MusicCityGP.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN and the Matt Murphy Show discussing the decision today on the part of the United States Supreme Court to end current practices involving affirmative action. And obviously the ruling is applauded by many conservatives, many libertarians, and individuals that believe in equality for all and believe discrimination is discrimination, reverse or otherwise. The ruling was 6-3. It was split among traditional lines. Student for Fair Admissions, a student advocacy group, brought cases against both Harvard and the University of North Carolina. The group initially sued Harvard in 2014 for violating Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which, quote, prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin in any program or activity that receives federal funds or other federal financial assistance. The complaint against Harvard alleged that the school's practices penalized Asian American students. By the way, nothing to do with Caucasians in terms of this case, except the ruling applies to all. The political left is cornered into arguing that there should be exceptions to discrimination in certain areas and under certain circumstances and with certain groups. Think about that for a minute. Is that not the same argument being made by segregationists in the 1950s? Well, we believe in separate but equal, everybody. I mean, come on. We don't want to have to associate with these people. Similarly, Harvard and the University of North Carolina says, look, we're not going to discriminate against black people or brown people. But if you're white or if you're Asian, yeah, we'll discriminate against you just a little bit. Just a little bit. No big deal there. I think it is a big deal. David wants to comment on that out of California. David, the floor is yours.
Well, yeah, Matt, two things. I'm not liberal. I'm 1776 conservative. And when I think about America saying equal protection under the law, equal justice under the law, the Supreme Court is basically ruling that it's okay to deny equal protection or equal justice.
How?
If you've got a world that's being made up by super rich guys, they're buying up all the water. I'll take it back to the fires that we were just talking about. If some corporation just bought up all of the water of Georgia or of Canada and drained it and sold it as bottled water or Coca-Cola or Pepsi or whatever, they buy all the water and dry up the trees, then those trees catch fire. Now, whose dumbass idea was it to sell the water in the first place so that all the trees would burn down?
All right, first and foremost, I'll do the cursing on this radio show. Thank you very much. Secondly, David, let's set the wildfire analogy aside for a minute, and let's just talk about this case. You just said the court, in their 6-3 ruling, they set in motion an opportunity for these organizations to discriminate. Tell me how that is. Tell me, explain to me, explain to me, okay, how it is okay, according to Harvard and the University of North Carolina, to deny an Asian American student access to their campus solely based on the fact that they're Asian. Explain that to me.
Well,
Why is that okay?
That gets into the second precept that I was going to raise.
I just want you to answer. All I want you to do is answer the question. All I want you to do is answer the question.
You're trying to claim that Harvard is a liberal institution. Half of Trump's lawyers came from Harvard.
David,
these people
that
are
has
just as
nothing
crazy
to
as
do.
Any other lawyer.
Nothing to see. You're avoiding the conversation because you can't defend it. You cannot defend your position.
Equal justice, equal protection.
I'll ask the question. I'll ask the question one more time. I'll give you the floor. Explain to me why you believe that it is acceptable for a government-funded institution to deny an Asian American student access to their campus solely based on their race, which is what they were doing. Explain that to me.
It's an issue of whether or not there's equal justice or equal protection. And affirmative action was always on the basis. Affirmative action came about because it was proven that when bigots ran society, it got expensive for society.
Yeah, 70 years ago. Yeah, right.
It's still going on.
70 years ago. Excuse me? Racial discrimination is going on? Explain to me what institute.
Flint, Michigan water. That's not equal protection.
Okay, and
That's not equal justice.
Flint, Michigan water, and Flint, Michigan is run by whom?
Bad water system.
You're accusing Democrats who run Flint, Michigan of racially discriminating against black people. Am I correct?
Are you trying to confuse the time frame?
No, sir.
So
who
we're talking about
Flint, Michigan?
Now
who runs the water?
David, who caused that water to be sold?
You're allowed your own opinions. You're not allowed your own facts. This is absurd. You sound like a boob, man.
Equal justice.
You brought up Flint, Michigan as an example of an institution that is engaged in racially discriminating against African Americans. Did you not?
I'd mention
Did you not? You brought it up,
Americans.
David.
I raised the issue of that bigots.
Wait a minute. Then why? Excuse me, David. Then why did you bring up
Do
Flint,
I get
Michigan?
a chance to finish a sentence?
You most certainly will.
I get a chance to finish a sentence?
Why did you bring up Flint, Michigan?
I get a chance
why did you
to finish
Why did you bring
a sentence?
Why did you bring up Flint, Michigan?
I get a chance to finish a sentence?
The answer is no. 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. So David can't get to the meat of the matter, and that is that if we are to get over this hump, and let's repeat, let's get on realistic and logical footing. Was there a time where affirmative action policy was necessary and right? Yes. The concept of slavery is morally evil. And I'm saddened that the United States of America was involved in it. If you ask me if I'm sorry it happened, of course I am. Do I have any responsibility in it? Of course I don't. But I'm sorry it happened. That said, I can see why, based on years of, literal human bondage, and based on about 100 years of inequitable treatment under the law, why the United States felt it necessary in order to lift up groups of people to create affirmative action style policies by which we would focus on those individuals in an effort to get them educated and to lift them up in the business world. I get it completely. But at some point, you have to shut it down if you believe in equality under the law. At some point, you say, we've done all we can do here as a government, and we must allow the free market and the private sector and the concept of individual freedom, movement, and liberty to take over. Of course, you still have racial discrimination laws on the books. No one is suggesting that those go away. Obviously, it is impermissible to racially discriminate against someone. That's the entire point of eliminating affirmative action policy, to stop racial discrimination against people like Asian Americans. Come on, David. And by the way, it's never a good idea to get all tough and Billy Badass with the guy that has the dump button, okay? That's just a tip from me to you. You should know that by now. Don is next in Nashville. Don, thank you for your call. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. I saw Doug Sittel, Sittel on Google.
Yeah, goodbye. Andy is next. Don is a seminar caller, and I have no interest in speaking with him, for those who don't understand. Andy, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir.
What's going on?
Right you were right to dump Gary. He's an idiot.
Well, his loss is your gain, Andy. It says you you want to talk about a subject that I've got great interest in.
I know, and I've been listening all week, Matt. And I've got to say that Mandis is. I hate saying it. He wanted to team up with you to start with to play somebody else.
I don't remember that. I'll have to go and check the tape, Andy. I don't want to disparage Mandis's semi good name.
Oh, it's not a good name. I hate. You're by far my favorite.
Well, I mean, you're obviously a man of good sense and taste, Andy.
Well, I'm from Mount Juliet too. See.
Well, I will. Are you on the south side or the north side up there?
I'm around Lakeview School.
Okay.
Over close to the lake.
Well, you watch. That's Mandis territory. You watch up there. You watch him.
What does he drive?
Well, I'll tell you.
Yes, a Hyundai.
You're not far off, actually. Look,
he don't drive a pickup truck, I guarantee you.
Mandis is good people, but I just don't feel like he's going to play good pickleball. I don't really have a concern about beating Dan Mandis in pickleball. I don't.
But if you play him, I want you to drive it down his throat. But that's beside the point, because we're having fun. But he did want to team up with you, and then you, if I'm not mistaken, you texted in.
I'll go back. I'll trust you. I don't trust Dan as far as I could throw him, but I trust you, Andy. You're good people, so I'm going to trust.
Those?
Well, Mandis.
And I hate defending him.
Well, Mandis obviously knows a superior athlete when he sees it, which is why he chose to try to team up with me to begin with.
He wasn't good when he was young. What are you talking about, man?
I'm saying he knows one when he sees it.
That's right. Man, you have a great day.
You too. I appreciate it, Andy. So Andy says that he was originally trying to team up with me. I just wish he could get the story straight. And I think Johnny B's leading him astray because they can't figure it out. It was Ron Slay of our sister sports station, 104.5 The Zone, not Ramon Foster. It was Ron Slay who was standing in the hall. It was Ron Slay who I was talking with. And every time Dan was like, it's Ron or Ramon, was like, it was Ron Slay. And that's all I'll say about that. Brian is next in Nashville. Brian, I hope you're avoiding the raindrops. They are coming down hard and heavy in Lebanon and Gallatin. A lot of areas getting a lot of rain. So. Yeah, man, I appreciate you. What's on your mind, Brian?
Well, I had to call when I heard David. That was just a great representation of what we all believe Californians think like and the brainwashed nature they're involved in. I actually involved myself with many different cultures. My girlfriend's Filipino, ex-wife's black. I'm white and part Indian. And I've heard for years and years and years about this discrimination that if you're such ethnicity, you only got to meet 35% of the GPA to gain your seat to a college, and then another ethnicity, you got to be smarter. And Asians by far are treated the worst because they're so strict with their education. And I'm so glad the Supreme Court is finally trying to actually fight racism.
I am too, and it was not a close call. Apparently, it was a 6-3 decision. Even John Roberts siding. He's kind of become the swing vote on the court, despite being nominated by a Republican and being a so-called conservative. Even John Roberts says, no, this was not a close call. Discrimination is discrimination. And understandably, we underwent efforts for 50-plus years in order to repair as best we possibly can some of the ills of our past, some of the institutional-style racism that went on in America's past. And to deny that racism is to deny America's history. Obviously, it occurred. I can't help it. I wish I could. But it is, after all, past history. But sadly, in 2023, there are many entities, including many in mainstream media and other organizations, that want to continue racism. They do not want equality under the law. They want vengeance. They do not want equality as it comes to the Constitution, as it comes to private business practices and government institutions. They don't want it. They want retribution. They're looking for revenge. Many of these organizations want to extract revenge on what they consider to be non-important groups of people in the United States, including Asian Americans and Caucasians. And all I can tell you is, if it's wrong then, how in the world is it not wrong now? Martin Luther King talked about a promise of a colorblind society, and now those individuals who would claim to be acolytes of MLK are suggesting to me that colorblindness is wrong. Wrong? No, this is a great day for America. This is a great ruling for the United States of America. We'll continue discussing it. It's 12:52 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Patriot Mobile is a wonderful organization. You know, we talk about good companies and companies that maybe aren't so good or maybe don't have your interest at heart. Let's discuss it. Because, look, if you appreciate your mobile service right now, if you believe you got pretty good coverage, what if I told you that you could give less to woke organizations and still maintain the same dependable coverage on all three major networks? Well, Patriot Mobile is here for you. They're America's only Christian conservative wireless provider offering dependable nationwide coverage on all three major networks, so you get the best possible service in your area without the woke politics. Well, they can't eliminate all of the wokeness, but they'll get as much of it out of your life as humanly possible. They're 100% U.S. based in their customer service arena. That means that you'll talk to somebody right here in the good old USA, and they make switching so easy. Keep your phone number, and switch. Join patriotmobile.com/Murphy. patriotmobile.com/Murphy. Use the free activation code MURPHY. Ask about their coverage guarantees while you're there. Make a call that so many others have made, patriotic Americans all, to Patriot Mobile. 878-PATRIOT. That's 878-PATRIOT.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. The Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in the college admissions process today. That decision limits using race as a factor for selecting students, but says individual students can reflect race in their personal applications. President Biden says the decision reverses 4 decades of ensuring equal access and diversity for higher education.
Discrimination still exists in America. Today's decision does not change that.
The majority of conservative justices ruling against Harvard and the University of North Carolina, saying their admissions plans violated equal protection under the 14th Amendment. ABC's Jonathan Karl says reaction over the decision and affirmative action is mixed.
In the latest polling on this, 63% of Americans saying that they favor a ban on using race as a factor in admissions to colleges, but almost exactly the same number saying that they support the idea of programs that increase racial diversity on college campuses. So the question now to all these colleges, which must in very short order rework their admissions criteria, is how they do that if they no longer have the tool of race-based affirmative action.
GOP presidential hopeful Mike Pence making a surprise visit to Ukraine today, getting a first-hand look at the destruction caused by Russia's attacks and atrocities. Pence visited mass graves in Bucha outside Kyiv and also met with Ukraine's President Zelensky in the capital.
The free world will stand together for freedom, and it's my great honor to help deliver that message here in Ukraine today.
Pence has criticized his former running mate and now rival, former President Trump, for not showing full support for Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. Another day of triple-digit temperatures in store for much of the Southwest. Texas still locked in a heat dome, and volatile storms have impacted air travel during this holiday week, along with FAA shortages. But for the first time this week, there are fewer cancellations today. You're listening to ABC News.
You know, my grandpa used to call these a frog strangler, a froggy strangler in progress. You know what? But strangling a frog is more fun than you think. It is going on. And what? Don't shake your head. That's good humor. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Hey, you're right about that. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 105. Good afternoon. It is nasty. It is dark outside on Music Row or just down from Music Row. And it's probably raining where you are, or it will soon. There's a big old thunderstorm that's coming from Kentucky and settling in throughout Nashville and the surrounding communities. And if you're in the way of it, just batten down the hatches. It'll be gone in the next, 30, 45 minutes or so. Hope you stay dry. We're going to keep our powder dry on the affirmative action decision on the part of the United States Supreme Court for just a moment. Right now, the Students for Fair Admissions is reacting to the ruling, saying what you might expect, that this is a great day for the United States of America, and it is a great day. It is a momentous thing, and it's sad that all are not celebrating. It's a momentous thing while we recognize that today is a day where we're moving forward in terms of equality for all. We're moving forward in terms of equality for all, not backwards. Joe Biden and the rest of the Democrat Party want to scare the hell out of you and make believe that we're going back to days that are long in America's past. That is not what is happening here. There is one forward-thinking group of political people now. And they're not just one. I won't say it's monolithic. But the libertarians and conservatives are the one that are thinking about the future of America, not the Democrats. The Democrats want to go back to the days of the past where they keep all black people on the Democrat plantation. They keep all gay people on the Democrat plantation. They keep all brown people on the Democrat plantation. And they utilize the crime of identity politics in order to advance their goals of control and power. And I cannot say it more simply than that. But we're going to set that aside for a moment as we welcome a good friend of the show back into the studio. There have been some recent developments on this. You guys know that I've taken something of a shine to my new city. I call her my new girlfriend, and she sure is pretty. And I love various parts of this, and I love history. And so I've made it a point to, the wife and I have gone out to Belmead Plantation and see the history of horse racing in Tennessee and horse breeding in Tennessee. I mean, I've been down to the walking horse places. I've seen the Civil War battlefields in Franklin and the surrounding communities. I've seen all of that. And I went out because I love NASCAR and I love racing generally. I went out to the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway to see where some of that history, where they burned rubber and made history. And even before then, I guess they burned hooves. Had the original track. Well, all that to say, Norm Parton is our good friend of the show, and he joins us with the latest developments. What is going on, my friend? You stayed dry.
I barely made it. I drove past animals lining up in pairs, so I was getting worried. And frogs weren't there; they were all strangled.
We have, well, that's right. Yeah. We have a high level of security at the building, yes. Which means the front door is locked.
Yeah.
And Norm wrote me a message. Normally, he says, I'm here. And that indicates that Belle or myself need to go down and get him. This time around, his message was, have door open.
Yes. Yes. I melt in the rain.
Well, sugar
yeah,
melts.
That's true.
Before we get any further, I want to thank you. You provided such hospitality to myself and my wife and our good friends, Grant and Jenny, out at the track the other night. And I just appreciate you showing us around the history, the experience, everything about the racing, the almost fight after the wreck on the front stretch. I mean, it was such great entertainment. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
That's that place has my heart. You talk about Nashville being your girlfriend. That's my lady down there.
Yeah, she's your old lady, right?
Yeah. Known her a long time.
I think, the racing was great. Spending time with you, seeing the various parts of the track was great. But I got to tell you, my favorite part was walking through the pits and seeing these youngsters, some as young as 9 years old, getting behind the wheel of their various classes of cars and getting ready to go racing, the excitement and the fact, like Sam Mazzo, am I saying that right?
Yep.
Sam Mazzo is a good example. He's a young man, a product of Tennessee. I think he's 17 years old and is an up-and-comer in the Legends class right now and is set to move up. And his parents and his grandma listens to the show quite regularly. And that's what this is all about at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, the racing is let's go to playing baseball. Most parents are sitting in lawn chairs behind the dugout. They throw the ball, they do stuff with the kid. But in racing, I mean, it is all hands on deck. And if you don't have a family supporting you, you don't race. So this is father, wife, daughter, or son racing. Sometimes grandpa hanging around. But the kid on tonight, there will be kids laying on their back under their race car, making it try to go faster for this weekend's racing. I mean, that's what this is. And they're learning geometry. They're learning engineering. They're learning patience. And they're learning math. And they're learning how to speak in public. And there is no better family-oriented sport than this racing.
Well, and they're learning competition and sportsmanship.
Yes.
And I would add just those two words to it because I watched it on the track. And you introduced me, in addition to some of the folks we met at the pits, you introduced me to some of these young men, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. Most of them products of places like Hendersonville and Gallatin, I mean, just around us, who have learned to be good young men at the racetrack.
Standing right in front of you was what, 6 or 7?
6 of them. Every one of them said hello, sir, and
called them over and
great.
Humble, and that's what they're trying to take away from us. And I'm pretty upset about it, and I'm getting more upset every day. But this is a great, great sport, and they got kids running micro midgets at 5 years old, and they're like Jeff Gordon.
What was those called? Those bandoleros?
The bandoleros are the.
Can I ask a question real quick on behalf of the audience because I actually don't know. You mentioned Legends class. What is Legends class?
Okay. Thank you for keeping
Bandolero is a big go-kart with a roll cage and a body on it, and you're I think 7 to 12 years old can race those. A Legends car is a small car that looks like the old Ford and Chevy coupes
from like the 1930s. The body on it looks like a bootlegger car from the 1930s, but it's slightly smaller.
And it's got
big
tires.
Like a legit gas engine in it, right?
A little 3-cylinder.
It is a motorcycle engine in a Legends car.
It's a 3-cylinder, right? I think that's right.
But they're motorcycle engines, and they're all produced. They are the biggest manufacturer of automobiles in the United States to race. And it's owned by the people at Speedway Motorsports.
And you have to be about 70 pounds smaller than me to get in one. I mean, they're too tiny.
But they're more fun.
I'm losing weight to get into one.
Well, we're going to put you in one.
I'm going to get in one. All right, so you've got that class, and then you continue to move up.
You move up, and you can to run a late model, which is a manufactured car with a V8 engine that is bought from General Motors or Ford. That comes in a crate, so they're all the same engines.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at $250,000 to campaign one of those for a year.
$250,000 to get on the track and
just to race, to have the car, the transport,
to get it to the various tracks and to race. $250,000. So if you the bottom line is if you add that up, that's a lot of money getting infused into the economy of Nashville. Yeah. Now, let's reset for those. And I'm going to warn folks. I understand that we talk more often about politics.
Yeah.
This is political in its nature. Yes. It is quite local in its nature. But you're going to hear me talk about this quite a bit. And there's one reason why. Obviously, I'm drawn to it because of my love of racing. I'm drawn to it because of my love of history. But I know this. If we do not gather together and champion keeping this racetrack and champion the renovation plan that is before the Metro Council. If the Metro Council does not vote in favor of this, you're going to lose something in Nashville that you will never, ever, ever get back.
Never get back. And cost people, in total, millions of dollars of investment. And it's like taking away your golf course. You have your clubs, you spend money, you practice, you do all of that, and they take away your golf course. It's just unfair, and it's unfair to the taxpayer who's going to foot the bill if this deal doesn't go through. So, and we can talk about that in detail. But you are absolutely right. It's politics. We're in an election year, council, mayor. There's people that are putting false information out. I have one statement from a citizens group that has 1, 2, 3, 4 untruths or misinformation in it that they're sending out to the public. So if you're getting these things, I never say that people are liars, but they're not telling the truth. And that makes it political, and that makes me angry.
All right, so where are we? For those who have not listened to our previous conversations, in a minute or two, catch everyone up to what the proposal is. The track's been there since 1904.
1904, and in its current footprint since 1958, running weekly races since. It is the oldest continuing running racetrack in the country. It is older than Indianapolis. And, you see the pictures of Indianapolis with the old cars with the spoke wheels. We are older than them. And as far as continually running year after year.
Am I right that the original track, it was a mile
dirt track for horses.
Right.
And they ran horses there all the way back in the 1800s. 1904, there was a challenge made between a Ford and I think it was a Chevy, and they didn't have steering wheels. They had the little stick steering wheel.
Like you see in airplanes.
A challenge race that took place in 1904, and that started annual races in cars at the Fairgrounds on the mile dirt track. 1958, it was changed to a half-mile paved track.
So before I got here, we called that BM before Murphy in Nashville. Obviously, there's been a lot of things happening in and around that area, and I think all of these are good things. These are things that can lift up the community in the general area. One, Geodis Park was built. Yes. You saw the Nashville Soccer Club come out to the fairgrounds. You saw some new fairground buildings go up. Exposition buildings go up. There's still a plenty of footprint for the fair and all that thing to go down. And the one thing that really hasn't changed over these years has been the Speedway. It kind of still sits there. And obviously, as I toured it with you a couple of weeks ago, it's still great. It's still wonderful. There's nothing wrong, but in order to attract more people, to attract more money and races, we've got to put some money into it. And thankfully, there's a plan going on that doesn't involve taxpayer dollars coming out of my wallet and going to the track.
Yeah. And a lot of people out there know me, but I'm a lifer. I was born and bred here. I'm a taxpayer, and many times an unhappy taxpayer. I can tell you right now, factually, just in the last 3 years, there's been $600,000 of taxpayer money go just for safety at that track. $400,000 was to replace the electric that was so old that they didn't have parts to fix it, and it also was a victim of the flood. And so that's coming out of taxpayer. That's coming out of your money, and that's not going to teachers, roads, and books.
Based on the vote, when did the vote happen? There was a
2011,
and that vote was designed to put to bed the idea of destroying the track, right? It's kind of an up and down.
The vote was to keep the existing uses of the fairgrounds, which was the expo buildings, most commonly the flea market, the racing, and the state fair. So state fair's gone. There will be a fair there, but the new construction has taken away so much space that it can't be what it used to be.
Right.
So, and the racetrack has been ignored financially by the city since 1997. And these people are out there. There's a group called CARE, which is Citizens Against Racetrack Expansion. And you talking about propaganda.
Who is, are you familiar with who is organizing or who's the head of that organization?
It's funded by the Ingrams that have the soccer club.
All right, so and that gets us into the nastiness of this.
Yeah.
Because John Ingram and his team pitched the idea of Geodis to the people of Nashville. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the financials were like, but I know that he was given quite a few concessions to include, and most importantly, 10 acres of property on which he has built condominiums, right?
Condominiums, and soon to come mixed use, including a hotel and another parking garage.
So as a so he built that stadium, and obviously he got these acres of property. I don't know if there were rules on what he could use it for, but he chose to put condominiums on it so he could sell said condominium so he could he's making money on that.
Well, now this is me speaking.
Yeah.
And, there's things that I know and there's things that I think I know. I'm going to what I think I know. And someone's perfectly happy to correct me. They gave him 10 free acres to develop because the soccer stadium won't stand on its own financially.
He had to supplement that income to pay off the note.
The income. When he did that, he took away 10 acres of parking that is desperately needed there. He pinched off the fair and has made it very difficult for the Expo Center.
Now he is actively, and just to understand why we're bringing up the soccer club and John Ingram. Yeah. John Ingram is actively campaigning against the renovation project that this is being
and publicly doing it.
Why?
Norm speaking for no one else. He wants it for a parking lot. I would be willing to bet that when Megan Barry, mayor, put this deal together, she's been for years trying to tear the racetrack down. They had bulldozers ready at one time, and they got beat in the referendum badly, 71%. So with that being said, they don't want the racetrack there. They're saying 30,000 seats next to 30,000 seats. It's two different. It's apples, oranges. Actually, it's apples and.
He doesn't want it's not the racing per se. He wants the parking, and what I understand is they don't want to compete for concerts and other types of things that might come into a venue like this.
So we're going to close the amphitheater, Ryman Auditorium, Bridgestone, Nissan for him because he don't want the competition.
Now, this is a multi-billionaire who is in part, I guess the Ingram family owns these billionaire companies.
Yes.
Who wants to push the little guy around so that he can build a parking lot and doesn't have to deal with competition.
Yeah. And I'd love for him to come sit right here and explain that.
I would love if anybody knows John Ingram, I'll give John Ingram an hour. I won't even have to be here. I'll go outside, just let him talk to you on the phone. Yeah. Speaking of which, I'm unblocking the lines. If you have interest in this, if you have questions, concerns, anything, because there's so much misinformation. Here's the guy that knows. Norm Parton's with us. Once again, you're going to hear me talking about this. I rarely put on my advocate hat, but I'm an advocate for saving this track, and it will not cost you any money despite what you might be seeing on television.
You're incorrect. It makes you money as a taxpayer.
Well, we'll talk about that next. We'll talk about that next. Norm Parton's with us. It's 123 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Tennessee Men's Clinic has 2 locations to serve you. One's been around for almost 3 decades in Midtown. The other just opened about 3 months ago in Franklin. Let's talk about what they do at the Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's as simple as this. Gentlemen, we know through a history, I know from 49 years of being a guy that I ignore all of the numbers. I don't know what my cholesterol is from Adam's house cat. I know my blood pressure because I went to the doctor a couple of weeks ago. But other than that, do you know your numbers? What about your T number? What about some other numbers that maybe you haven't heard of that could be affecting your energy, your vitality, and your drive? If you felt like you've lost a step over the years and you just chalk that up to being older, you don't have to do it. You can get some of that vitality back. Now, they can't reverse the aging process, but they certainly can give you more energy. They certainly can make sure that your numbers are correct. And if they're not, they will give you an action plan that works. An action plan that works. How about that? TennesseeMen'sClinic.com for more information on what they can do or to schedule an appointment today. Or you can call 615-208-9090. Locations in Midtown, location in Franklin. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A lot of nastiness going on outside. Just be alert, be aware of it, and make sure that you are battened down if you're in certain areas where the big-time thunderstorms are going on. Severe thunderstorm. These are not tornadic in nature. They're just thunderstorms, and they're coming through. And you know what? It's a big red blob over the city of Nashville right now. So if you're in Bellevue and Smyrna and, even out to Lebanon, I mean, it's a big blob of rain. And it's going down. Thank you very much. It's going down right now, and it's coming toward Franklin and parts south. It's going generally north to south at a fairly rapid clip. So just be alert on that. If you're just getting out of lunch or whatever and you're driving, it's going to be a little treacherous on our interstates and roadways for a minute or two. Pamela Furr's at the border, and we're gonna have Pamela on in the 2 o'clock hour at some point. Dan Steiner will be here from Preborn at 2 o'clock. It was a scheduled get-together with Dan and I to talk a little further about Preborn, a fine sponsor of the Matt Murphy Show and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Norm Parton's here right now talking the racetrack and what you need to do to try to save it. And it's as simple, right, as contacting your Metro Councilor if you live in Davidson County and begging of them to vote in the affirmative in terms of that track. Am I correct?
Yeah. Phone and email makes a difference. Because of the propaganda. And I want to read this one statement. Will you allow me to do that? Sure. This is from the CARE people. The folks at Bristol Motor Speedway, the ones who want $160 million of tax money. I'm going to stop right there. No way is it 160, and it's not tax money. It is a revenue bond and plus grants from the state. So there is no tax money involved.
Let me stop you right there. I want to make sure
$80 million, by the way, not 160.
I want to make sure that people understand the difference. So tax dollars would come out of the general fund, and they would be dedicated and allocated from tax revenue at the
Property
Metro
taxes,
Council,
sales taxes, all of that stuff.
dedicated to the track. A revenue bond is, yes, you're utilizing the good faith and credit of the Metro Council to do this, but you're letting a bond, or you're borrowing, what is it, $80 million?
It's going to be give or take 3.
All right, so you're utilizing, I think it's $17 million from Sports Authority, which is
no, from the Conventions and Visitors Bureau, which is tourist dollars.
All right, and that is dedicated money to tourism activities. So that money is going to some tourism-related activity, regardless of whether the track gets it or not.
Yes.
So that's dedicated money. And then the other money is a revenue bond. And I'm not trying to talk down to you guys. You know what a revenue bond is. But for those who don't.
They don't know.
It is borrowed money, and every year you have to pay certain amounts of that money back until you get the bond paid off. And revenue bond, it's in the name, you pay it back through the revenues generated at the track. My question is, and I don't know the answer to this, in the contract that has been proposed to the Metro Council, let's say the revenues fall a little bit short.
Yeah, there's an answer.
Who pays it?
Well, first of all, when you do a bond for $100, they say you're going to borrow $100. They do the bond issue for $120. The 20 sits in a shoebox. It's not borrowed. It's there. That is your COVID. That is your 10 rainouts in a row. That's your money that if there's a fall short. The way that the revenue plays out using concessions, hot dogs, popcorn, beer, colas, you're paying annual rent of $1 million. The first 650,000 of sponsorship sales, which will be millions, goes in as that, plus the sales tax capture from what is sold on the property, plus a ticket tax. And the projections, which are very conservative, will show way over $100 million to the good over the term of the lease.
So when we come back, we've got to take a break, and I know Henry and Mike want to get in on this, and I begged you to call, so I'm going to get to your calls to ask Norm a question. And Henry apparently lives near the track, so I'm curious what he has to say.
Sure.
So we'll continue this discussion, but I just want to clear up some misinformation that's being presented even by candidates for mayor of the city of Nashville.
Yes.
We'll talk about that in just a moment. It's 1:32. One more good segment with Norm Parton on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. A quick weather. A quick weather alert prior to me telling you about Safe House. There are flooded streets in downtown Nashville right now. Just know, don't drive through flooded areas because water might be moving underneath the surface. Turn around, don't drown. That's what they say. So there's a lot of rain coming down in a very short amount of time, and so need to be weather aware. We'll continue talking about that throughout the course of the afternoon on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Friends, the days are just counting down before you will not receive a sales tax break on your gun safe that you purchase from Nashville Safe House. And Mark and I just want to impress upon you that this could save you hundreds of dollars. This is not an insignificant amount of money considering the size of the safe that you might want to buy. So if you're looking to upgrade, or if you've been thinking about buying a gun safe for personal safety so you can keep those things that protect you protected themselves, go now to Nashville Safe House. I think I need to have Mark on tomorrow just to impress upon you that this is it. Once this month is out, the sales tax is back on these gun safes. There's nothing that we can do about it. Now, the Browning rebate may continue. I'm not certain about that. I've got to talk to Mark. But there's an incredible Browning rebate going on. Another incentive to get to Nashville Safe House. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com. Check out the many safes they have, 650 or thereabouts, in stock and ready to deliver. And they don't have a crackhead delivering your safe. Good, qualified individuals that work for the Safe House. NashvilleSafeHouse.com or 4th Avenue South in Nashville. Nashville Safe House. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's Murphy announcement music right there. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Big announcement. Norm Pardon's in the house. That's the announcement. 138 Super Talk 99.7 W. Oh, look, I mean, he old school radio guy. He can turn his own microphone on. I like that. Norm's in the house to answer your questions or to talk to you about any concerns that you might have regarding the restoration of the track. So it's $17 million from the tourism folks.
And 17 a grant of tourism dollars from economic development dollars from the state.
From the
so
state.
That's 34, right?
And then the rest revenue bonds.
Yes.
And Bristol will come in and they will manage and control the renovation and the track.
And operate.
And operate the track. And so you're talking still 10 weekend dates a year, right?
Yeah. And here's what's interesting. Didn't get to finish this.
Yeah, go ahead.
About the $160 million.
Yeah, go ahead. So they lie about
double the size of the grandstands. Correct. But they're also replacing the grandstands that are not safe anymore, that are going to have to be replaced anyway, eventually. And the more they blast for the 10-acre development, the more damage is done.
Can I just tell you, I'm an old soul, and when we went out to the track and sat in some of the areas, the exact reason that I dig that track is the reason that we have to build something new, because
it's falling down.
Well, it feels like 1972.
Yeah.
I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
I mean, which is about when the grandstand was built, I think.
Yeah,
so
it's right there in the 70s.
Yeah.
So, and then they say they're going to pave over the historic landmark at the Fairgrounds Speedway. So they say it's historic, but you pave asphalt anyway.
Well, you
pave
repave
the
tracks.
interstate, you repave your street, you are going to have to repave the track anyway.
Well, you're modernizing the thing.
Well, it's wore out. I mean, it's got holes in it.
Well, that's just stupid. Those are just people that don't understand.
That's a bad thing. That has to happen anyway. And if you don't do the Bristol partnership, guess who's paying for it? You, the listener.
Yep.
Taxpayer. Then it says they want to run 4 week-long NASCAR races with no mufflers. Just
read it again. Just read it again.
Quote, want to run 4 week-long NASCAR races with no mufflers. There is a 1 weekend per year with NASCAR. 1 per year. The Cup Series is here once every other year.
Right.
So
was that Xfinity?
So this is what I'm doing.
Will Xfinity be every year or truck?
Oh yeah, Xfinity and truck will all be part of this. Yeah. But the Cup Series will be here every other year. So with no mufflers. This weekend in Chicago, they're running mufflers. So it's in the Spear Mill. This will be the second time they've run them. And as the Sports Authority learned yesterday, that you just don't slap a muffler on a race car or you burn up the driver. It adds heat to the car. Mm-hmm. They haven't figured out how to do it yet. That's why they're running it at Chicago to get the numbers and so forth. So eventually there will be. But this is what we're up against. If you're a citizen of Nashville, these people get their way, there's going to be about $40 million to come to repair the racetrack. That's not bringing it all the way up to the standard it needs to be. That's just to get it back to what it is now, unsafe. But listen to this. If they do that, taxpayers are paying for it, and they don't have a promoter to promote.
Now, did I see where there was a group of neighbors that were trying to sue?
Oh, yeah, everybody's suing.
Okay.
Everybody's suing. And it's all irrelevant.
And that shouldn't have anything to do with the vote.
No.
Okay, let me get to Henry real quick, and I want to play this ad from Jim Gingrich, which is just misinformation. Henry is in Nashville, and he lives near the track. Hey, Henry.
Hello.
What's your thought here, Hey, Henry, what's your thought?
Well, I'm a homeowner, and I was over there years ago, over a decade, 15 years, and I recall when it was still no mufflers, and the windows would rattle in the house. I'm that close, and they would practice, run into like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning on Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Never happened.
I thought that was awful. Well, when somebody blinked.
Wait, they were running. Hold on, Henry. Henry, they were running at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, when I first moved over there, I bought my property. It was pretty bad. There was no respect from the people who were driving, and it made a lot of bad feelings. I think that's where a lot of the bad feelings began. But somebody blinked, and they made some rules, and it got it under control where they weren't running that late. They had limited days. They had to put mufflers on, and it made everything palatable to at least to me. I thought, well, that was a good move. They shouldn't have been disrespecting the neighborhood, when these people were doing that. I'm neutral on it. I don't belong to any clubs or groups, but I have been on some email lists before, and like that CARE that you was talking about, and there were some groups before. If I ever said anything that was not fully in their camp, I got cut off and was not even getting updates or emails from them anymore. So those groups are closed to anybody who has a different opinion, even though it seeks out people who are in the neighborhood.
Well,
So,
and you would love, if you still lived over there, you would love this deal because I think this deal includes increased noise abatement.
Yes.
Above and beyond. I mean, the NASCAR guys as it exists now, they don't have mufflers, but everybody else does. And now there's going to be more noise abatement, right, Norm?
They're putting in what is basically in recording studios. You know, they have the foam that absorbs sound.
Right.
Like when they built I-440, they had those. The first time I ever saw these big high concrete walls, and I thought, what is that stuff? And I saw, okay, well, the neighbors they put that in to protect the neighborhood from the traffic. And I guess that works. You see them in a lot of places now.
Well,
and,
the truth of the matter, Henry, is that wall deflects sound.
Right.
So it hits it and it bounces like a tennis ball.
Sure.
What we're building, or what Bristol Partnership is going to have, is absorbing wall that the sound goes in and don't come out.
Can't get back out.
And can't get back
That's
out.
right.
So it's even better than a deflective wall.
I'd agree with that. I understand what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. If the listeners know that's true, that will work and help abate the noise more.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm neutral on it. I knew the track was there when I bought my property, and I bought it because I work in the area. And
how long did you? I'm just curious. Whenabouts were you over there?
15 years ago.
Okay. Cool. Well, Henry, I appreciate you calling in and give us a little perspective. And here's the difference between Norm Parton, Matt Murphy, and these other groups. These other groups are going to shut you down. Norm shook his head when you were talking about 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't think Norm quite buys that. I mean, memories are strange things, though. I mean, I'm not saying Henry's not.
In my lifetime, it's not gone past midnight.
But
it has.
But the bottom line is that there are limitations now as to how late they can go.
And for the last 2 years, they have not exceeded 10:15, and that was because of a rain delay. The race that you were at, you left early.
Yeah,
they were done at 9:35.
Man, oh man! I wish I could have stayed for the last race, but I had to go, especially after the verbal jousting that went on. There was a gentleman's
disagreement of some sort.
Disagreement about whose space was whose.
Cost about $100,000 worth of equipment to figure that out.
It tore that car up. I know that. Some of the questions that we're getting from the super text line. 2660 says, "Man, this is boring." 2660, I understand that you might not love or appreciate the history of Nashville, and that's fine. If you don't think that this is important, understand something. If they and I'm not getting on you about what you have to say. If you think it's boring, that's fine. I understand that every subject we bring up on the radio for 3 hours a day is not going to appeal to every single person that listens. But if people felt like you did in 1990, the Ryman Auditorium would not exist. There was an effort to tear down the Ryman Auditorium. And if people did not step up and defend that property, it would no longer be here. If people had not stepped up and made word that the Ernest Tubb Record Shop was shutting down and was about to become another bar on Broadway, the Ernest Tubb Record Shop would currently be another bar on Broadway. Once you I'm just passionate about this. I'm not getting on you.
Piece by piece, they're taking our Nashville away.
Yeah,
has nothing to do with racing. They're taking our Nashville away.
And I don't begrudge you your feelings on it, 2660, but, I just got to tell you, if you're bored, come on back. Paul says the caller's a liar, and I'm not going to say that, but his memory is his memory. Where's the Nashville Historical Commission on this, Norm, writes Travis. They usually fight hard to keep places like the Speedway. Also, Ingram is a jerk. Travis wrote. So that just leave the Ingram part alone. Is there
no? The history is Fireball Roberts, Fred Lorenzen, Richard Petty, Bob Ruther, Jimmy Griggs, our local guys. That's the history. The grandfathers that now have grandsons racing. That's the history. You can pave over asphalt. It doesn't affect history or not. The grandstands. Yes, they are history, but they're falling down. They are literally, if you crawled under the grandstand with me, now you're going to get dirty and grimy. The pillars don't meet the footing, and we have people sitting on that.
Don't lose the first aid hut though. I don't know why the first aid hut was a
that
hoot.
was impressive. Wasn't it?
Well, that was a hoot.
And wait till that's replaced. I have been inside the ER at a racetrack, both horizontally and vertically.
Y'all never had a police substation at the track, did you?
No, don't need one.
Talladega did for a while.
Well, it's like Philadelphia. They have the judge on site during the game. But this is
that a joke or is that true?
That's what I've always been told. In Philly? Yeah.
Oh, I know people that were there with their hands behind their back. That's true. They have a judge right there. You're adjudicated before halftime.
I watched a guy get taken to the temporary pokey at Talladega Superspeedway one year, and that's where I learned the phrase. A guy behind me said it because that guy had somehow smuggled in a handle of Jack Daniels, and he had drank about all of it, and he passed out, and all the medical personnel came to him and the sheriff's deputy, and there's about 5 or 6 people. They're trying to help him.
Yeah.
When he woke up, he just started fighting. Just started fighting everybody, and they got him. They finally got him in handcuffs, calmed him down. They were about to take him off, and from behind me, I heard, "That old boy can drink all the liquor he wants, but he ain't gonna get no drunker."
Yeah. I'm going to steal that.
All right, so a lot of people in support. As we wrap up, Norm, how can we battle the misinformation, and how can people verbally offer their support to the council on the track? Remind them again.
All right. Phone calls and emails are extremely valuable, and people pay attention. An email, they look at that the same as a vote. Everybody wants to get reelected. That's a fact, or elected. The Gingrich ad, to his credit, he's meeting with me at 10:30. And I'm going to give him the facts to show that his TV ad is not only wrong, it's 100% wrong. And I would ask him, in fact, if he would like to.
I would love for him to come on.
I'd love for him to come on. And this is an issue about taxpayer money. Now, I'm a racing guy, but this is about you, the person that pays property taxes and sales taxes. If this gives you $100 million over the life of this contract into the general fund, as opposed to you having to foot the bill to keep that place going because it's in the Metro Charter, the numbers matter. I don't care if it's boring. I don't care if you live 100 miles away from it. Well, in Davis County, you can't do that. If you've never even seen the fairgrounds, do you want to spend $40 to $50 million to repair that place with no revenue to replace that value?
Because right now, that's where we are.
That's where we are. Yeah,
and this restoration would This restoration would solve all of that.
Yeah.
The votes are razor thin. I mean, it's it's tight. You're counting numbers.
Yeah.
So every email and every telephone call matters. Norm will have you back, and let us know how the conversation with Jim Gingrich goes.
We'll stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Norm Parton. By the way, we've got a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings to tell you about. Murray County is currently under a severe thunderstorm warning. Williamson County and Rutherford County both under severe thunderstorm warnings as that system moves through the metro region. We'll update you on that in a moment. It's 1:53 on Super Talk.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. We've got a severe weather watch day right now. Marshall County, Murray County, southern Williamson County in severe thunderstorm warnings until 2:15 as the storm matriculates all across the mid-state. This heavy rain coming down right now. And that warning now includes also Murfreesboro, Shelbyville, and Chapel Hill until 2:30. And via radar, they've tracked up to 60-mile-an-hour winds in Williamson County right now. A lot of rain coming down all across the mid-state. Be careful on the road. Some streets downtown in Nashville are flooding, so make sure and have those headlights on as well. And all of Middle Tennessee in a severe thunderstorm watch until 4 p.m. And due to the intense weather right now, the FAA has issued a ground stop for any arriving aircraft at BNA, and that was at about 1 o'clock today that was called. Full weather forecast coming up just a couple of minutes. And with little time to go before they recess, the U.S. Supreme Court today gutted the use of affirmative action in college admissions.
In a 6-3 opinion, the U.S. Supreme Court said admissions programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina employ race in a negative manner, involve racial stereotyping, and lack meaningful endpoints. The decision said the court has never permitted admissions programs to work in that way. Students for Fair Admissions, which brought the case, called the opinion the beginning of the restoration of the colorblind legal covenant that binds the nation. In dissent, Justice Sotomayor said the decision rolls back decades of momentous progress and entrenches racial inequality in education. Aaron Katursky, ABC News, New York.
And an accidental shooting in Tennessee. A 12-year-old girl was taken to Vanderbilt Medical Center earlier this morning after getting shot in the head. Witnesses said the shooting was accidental and that it took place with a group of juveniles who were alone. Officials, though, believe through investigation that one person fled the scene. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Speaking of racing, racing is coming to downtown Nashville. You know about it. You've heard me talk about it. Now it's time to get tickets to the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is August 4th through the 6th. The only thing hotter than the temperatures right now and over the next several days will be the racing August 4th through 6th in downtown Nashville. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is the IndyCar event of the year. Races through the streets of Nashville going over 200 miles an hour in some spots. Did you know the course is designed to challenge those drivers and to excite the fans? And it does just that. New for 2023 Saturday night racing, a family fun zone, and an early 11:30 start for the Sunday NTT IndyCar Series race. If you've never experienced it, it's time. Get your tickets, a 3-day pass or 1-day event tickets. Don't miss the party of the year. Grab your tickets before they're gone and get amped. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, MusicCityGP.com. That's MusicCityGP.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy and you. Hello. Thursday edition, June 29. 2:05 and a good afternoon. A lot of nastiness coming through the area. Mac Morey's back in the newsroom, and he's gathering all of the info regarding some of the traffic issues that are involved in this. I know Jay Harper's in the traffic department as well, and he's probably getting ready to collect some of that information too. But we have severe thunderstorms moving through. There was a severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Williamson, Rutherford, and Murray County. Those will expire at some point as this system moves lower and lower. Davidson County is out of that warning zone. And so you get it, right? There's no tornadoes associated with this event, just some strong winds and a severe thunderstorm, a typical severe thunderstorm. So if you're on the road, just be on the lookout for that. And if you're on the road, be on the lookout for ponding water as we're getting some of that going on. Today is June 29th. I missed the day, but I mentioned it a couple of days ago, that it was June 24th of last year when the ruling of Dobbs v. Jackson came down and changed things really forever, thankfully, in the United States of America. Over the last several months, you've heard me talking about an organization called Preborn. You can find out more at preborn.org, and I encourage you to include my name on the back end of that, /Matt, just to let them know where you heard about them. Preborn as an organization, they are so near and dear to my heart in the manner in which they do things. But don't let me tell you how they do things. Let's talk to the president of Preborn. His name is Dan Steiner. He joins us on the Matt Murphy Show hotline, and I am proud and honored to introduce Dan to the listening audience and to talk about the anniversary of a momentous decision and where we are moving forward. Dan, so great to talk to you. Good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Matt, great to be here. Thanks for having us on. This is awesome.
Well, it's an absolute privilege to discuss with you the elimination, the forever in the trash heap of history Roe v. Wade decision replaced by Dobbs v. Jackson. We should be, before we talk about why we shouldn't celebrate quite yet, and I think that's a major component of our discussion today, it should be a celebration, a recognition that the states themselves should make these sorts of decisions, and so many states are choosing life as government entities, correct?
Yeah, it's an awesome thing, Matt, for sure, that got out of jail on the fact that Roe versus Wade mandated that the states could not outlaw abortion, they couldn't have their own laws and determine what they do with their own women in their own states. So it's back to the people where it rightly belonged, and that one fact means that probably 26 states have abortion restrictive laws that will protect the unborn, protect women from the abuse of abortion, and that shuts down many abortion clinics in their states from doing mechanical abortions. And so as a result, we're projecting that there's probably 150,000 less babies in the year of 2023 because of this decision that was done in June of 2022. And so that's something to really praise God about. 150,000 babies that are born because of the Dobbs decision, and that's worth just partying.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean it's part of the celebration as we celebrate the ability for the people to make these decisions and to choose life. But you've reminded me in the past, Dan, one of our calls that we've been on talking about Preborn and the campaign that you guys are on for ultrasounds. Is that doesn't mean the battle is done. And I fear that in Tennessee, as an example, or in other states where we have passed relatively strong laws preventing these abortions, that we feel like, well, at least the battle's won here in Tennessee and we can move forward and deal with other things. And that's just not the case, right?
It really isn't. Let me give you a real-life example that happened just recently in another abortion-restrictive state like Tennessee, and that's in Florida, where you couldn't get a mechanical abortion. And Maria wanted an abortion, so she went online. She found an overseas abortion pill site, and she ordered an abortion pill from them. And it arrived in her mailbox right there in her neighborhood. And this is happening in all of our neighborhoods. We're talking about 400,000 women that are taking these abortion pills nationally in the United States. And so Maria took the RU46 deadly concoction, two drugs, mifepristone and misoprostol, and it worked. She was pregnant. It killed her 12-week baby, and she birthed it on her bathroom floor.
Oh my goodness!
What's she gonna do with that? I mean, Before, Matt, if a woman has an abortion, she didn't see the baby. She felt the vacuum. She heard the vacuum. She knew what she did. She had guilt and shame. I've talked to hundreds of them, literally, that regretted it the rest of their lives and are haunted by it, literally, in many ways, bad dreams and such. But now it's worse because now they did it. The abortionist isn't there. And what are they going to do with the baby? Are they going to flush it? I mean, what do they do? So she comes into Maria, takes this baby, brokenhearted, as you might imagine, and brings it into our clinic wrapped in a washcloth, saying, what can I do with this? What should I do with this? And that's what we're doing, is we're abusing women dramatically through this chemical abortion across the United States. And it is, we would estimate probably 50% of the abortions, 60% of the abortions are chemical abortion, pill abortions in the United States. And that's happening right here in Tennessee, right here in Nashville, right here probably in your neighborhood, because there's literally hundreds of thousands of women that are using this deadly abortion concoction to kill their children, having no idea of the repercussions, having no idea of the trauma, of the bloody process that they're going to have to go through when they take that pill, the pain that they're going to have to go through. And then there's the baby that they've taken its life. And so none of this, of course, will make the news. None of this is told to them when they order the abortion pill. And it is just totally abusive to women. And so Preborn is trying to do something about that. But to our point here in this part of the conversation is that it is absolutely not over. In fact, in many ways, it's worse than it ever was, because now you can have an abortion in any place with the abortion pill. If you've got a mailbox, you can have an abortion because they'll send you an abortion pill. And then many abortions done in Tennessee, they'll go to an abortion-friendly state to get that abortion, whether that's Illinois or North Carolina, wherever they can go to get the abortion if they have the means to do it. And so it's created abortion trafficking throughout the United States. And in fact, some of the states that are abortion sanctuary states, like California, are advertising in abortion adverse states like Tennessee here, saying, Tennessee doesn't own your body, California's here to help you. And they even, call this number, we'll give you an abortion. And they cite scripture to do it, as if they're poking us in the eye. So it's just incredible. Really, it is. It's in many ways, we're this afternoon celebrating the, as you said, the sending of Roe versus Wade back to the trash heap where it belongs. We still have
there's still a lot of
battle
fight.
and a more. Yeah,
I looked at it. The way that I've said it, Dan, is that I don't believe that Dobbs v. Jackson is the end. I think it's the beginning. It's the beginning of the true battle. And one of the reasons that I'm so proud to be affiliated with Preborn is your message of love. I mean, there's so much anger surrounding the abortion issue, and I understand it. Don't get me wrong. I understand why folks are so frustrated because they see babies murdered across the United States of America. But your message has always been centered around love and how love can make the difference between life and death. How were you led to that message as president of Preborn?
Well, a dramatic event happened in my life 30 years ago. Came to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. Never been the same the day since. And and then I got a bunch of pamphlets, Matt, from a place called Last Days Ministries. And here's a pamphlet, how to be a Christian. Here's Christian view on divorce, Christian view on anger, Christian view on alcoholism. Here's a pamphlet, Christian view on abortion. Open this thing up, Matt, and here's a baby whose chest was cut wide open, and they harvested his organs to sell them. I'm thinking, this is barbaric. This is happening in America. And so that set me on a path to what to do about it. And then one morning early in prayer, get up between 4:30 and 6:30 every morning, seek the Lord, and really felt his broken heart. He is the one who's forming these babies, knitting them together in their mother's womb, as it says in Scripture. And it breaks his heart to see the terror on their face and what's supposed to be the safest sanctuary, the womb of their mother, intruded by the suction curettage 40 times more powerful than a vacuum cleaner, dismembers them, breaks God's heart. And I just sensed his broken heart in that time of prayer in that early morning. And it set me on a path to what really stops abortion. I mean, we protest about it, we legislate about it, and until Dobbs, 50 years of Roe versus Wade, nothing really stopped it. and it still hasn't stopped it. It's just curtailed it pretty significantly, which is wonderful, but also made it more difficult of a battle with now this division in the states. It almost looks like it did in the days of slavery, man, where you had, abolitionist states and states that were pro-slavery, and that's what we've got. We've got a divided country by this issue of killing children. And so it's just that set me on a path as to what would really work and how I could be involved with it, and went to pregnancy clinics are the answer. So that's why we are involved.
Well, I want to transition to what's so important and significant about the $28 figure in a moment. But Allison on the Super Text line, we've got a lot of questions and comments coming in on our Super Text line. Dan Steiner, our guest, of course, president of Preborn. And the question is, can you speak to volunteer opportunities with Preborn? I was a birth mom back in the 80s, and so I have lived through the process of adoption versus abortion. How can I volunteer minister to these young ladies? Are there volunteer opportunities on the website?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, for sure. Yeah, just go to Preborn, send us a message there, call our number, we'll hook you up, your listener there with the clinic nearest them that are always looking, particularly those that own the issue like this young lady does, that can be sitting in front of these young moms at pregnancy clinics and help them choose life. So we'd be glad to make the referral.
And I love the way that you boil it down to, dollars and cents, right? For $28, you are sponsoring an ultrasound for a mama. And when we do that, just walk through, and I talk about it in 60-second increments, Dan, but I just want to hear from you. I want to hear from you as you talk about just the life-changing nature of loving a mama and making sure that she gets an ultrasound and what happens with her heart and what happens in that process that leads her to life.
Yeah, it is really wonderful. The best way I can say it, Matt, is with the true story of a 13-year-old girl. I say girl because she's 13, but she's at her clinic. She's wanting an abortion. And her mother doesn't even know she's sexually active. And so we are talking to her, and she's resolute. No matter what we said, it didn't work. She said she was 17 weeks. That's pretty far along. That's a second-term baby. Nearly the age of viability in the 17-year-old girl's womb. Boyfriend cut and run. He's not part of the picture, as is typical. And so here she is, wanting an abortion in one of her clinics. And she asked two questions, Matt. She asked the first question, she said, as we're counseling her, will my baby feel pain? So she's thinking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Will my baby feel pain?
Mm-hmm.
And we said, well, yeah, 17 weeks absolutely will feel pain. Traumatized, actually, by it. So that got her thinking. And then she said, can you give my baby anesthesia? And so she's saying my baby, right, which is a good sign.
Right.
And we said, no, it's an abortion. There's no anesthesia if you get an abortion. We don't do them here. And so she's thinking about it, but then at the end she says, even after thinking about it that much, she said, I have nobody to help me. My parents are going to kick me out of the house. They're going to kill me. I can't do this. I need an abortion. So we took her back into the ultrasound room and gave her a free, real-time, intrauterine ultrasound of not her 17-week baby, Matt, but her 21-week-old baby.
Mm-hmm.
The age of viability, hanging in the balance of this 13-year-old girl's decision, who's traumatized by the whole situation. And that ultrasound was paid for by a listener of the Matt Murphy show. And she sees this baby, Matt, and nearly falls off the table. She goes, oh my gosh, it's a baby. Well, yeah. She said, I can't do this. And so, we called her parents in. She resoundingly chose like a complete turnaround simply because of that first baby picture, if you will, of her baby on ultrasound. And that's what we're doing together for $28. $28 of your $28 donation, or $56 for two, or $140 for five, $280 for 10 ultrasounds. 100% of that money goes to our clinics to underwrite ultrasounds for these women. And we're just so thankful for the partnership here, man.
Dan, I want to take a short time out. Dan Steiner's our guest. He is the president of Preborn. You can find them at preborn.org. You can also go to preborn.org/mad. It'll get you to the same place. But we'll talk to Dan about the call to action and the importance of you heeding that call to try to save some lives. We'll do that in just a moment. It's 2:20. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Speaking of call to actions, I've been telling you about Safe House. I've been telling you how Safe House provides quality gun safes of many different varieties, styles, and brands for you, the listening audience. They also have corporate safes. They have jewelry safes. They have any types, shapes, and sizes. More safes than anyone, not just in the United States of America, but the world. That means that they have in Nashville, Tennessee, on 4th Avenue South, the best in-stock selection of safes in the universe. And every single one of them is going to cost you a little more money after June into July. Sadly, the sales tax free holiday is over. It lasted for about 2 years. And much to our chagrin, the state says now you have to pay sales taxes on your gun safes. Well, we can't help what the safe does, or the state does, I should say, but I can't help it that you get to the Safe House, get that action plan in place, and get yourself a fine safe from Mark and his team at the Safe House. They're on 4th Avenue South. Go to NashvilleSafeHouse.com. That's NashvilleSafeHouse.com. Contact Mark, contact the Safe House before the end of the month, and go ahead and lock down that sales tax-free nature and ask about the Browning rebates. It's Nashville Safe House.
Looks like no more severe thunderstorm warnings in Middle Tennessee right now. The Supreme Court with a big decision today. A police officer in Paris facing charges, and a Titans offensive lineman to miss the first few games of the season for gambling. Those stories and more coming up at 2:30. I'm Mac Morey right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Finger wag, can't bet on the ponies. I mean, is that what? Well, I guess I'll have to wait.
You have to wait.
I guess I have to wait until 2:30 like everyone else. I get no special treatment around here, folks. Matt Murphy Show, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Special treatment? We actively torture you.
Well, that's true, too. You do that regularly on the Super Text line, I've noticed. And by the way, people are like, hey, Bell, I think they said blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Bell doesn't listen to the show, really. Come on now.
What?
Exactly. Dan Steiner's with us. He's with Preborn, talking to Dan about the anniversary of the Dobbs decision, what it means and what it doesn't mean, what it means to shower mamas with love, and what your $28 donation means to Preborn. The campaign is still ongoing, right, Dan? I mean, we still got a few days left. Am I not correct?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Everybody that wants to be part of it, $28 less than a good night out. You can actually 80% of the time save a baby's life by underwriting this free ultrasound for mom. And your listeners can also go on the phone, Matt, and dial pound 250. That's hashtag 250. Say keyword baby. You can do that while you're driving, as long as you keep your eye on the road, and make a $28 donation for one, $56 for two. So thankful for the many listeners who have underwritten so many already.
I know that we have listeners out there in our audience because we have such a generous and caring and giving audience, Dan. And I know that some, maybe they have the means. They've been blessed with hard work and hard work ethic and good fortune in their lives, and they have a little more money. And you also talk about a campaign to purchase a machine itself. Talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, we've got two options if the Lord has been particularly generous with particular listeners that maybe, we're only asked by the Lord to give out of our increase, and God has increased some people more than others, maybe out of your business or, just your stock returns have done well and the market being up as it is. $15,000 underwrites an ultrasound machine that'll last for 10 years. $5,000 underwrites a day in one of our clinics, a day to reach moms. And so this would be, either one would be such a blessing and a gift that keeps on giving. And all of that, go to preborn.com/Matt or to dial pound 250 on your cell phone. $15,000 would underwrite an ultrasound machine for a clinic. We're trying to place 100 of them this year, and also trying to keep the clinics open. The abortion clinics are open every day, so $5,000 keeps us pushing women into the clinics every day. It's underwriting a day of reaching women on. And that's just $5,000 to reach. We save 200 babies a day, so that $5,000 makes a big difference.
And I want to talk about that. Have you? I know you probably have done the math, Dan, but the babies the trackable saved babies over the course of the existence of Preborn has to be. I mean, certainly, obviously, in the tens of thousands, if not the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, we're just so thankful, Matt. I know that we have seen over 54,000 babies saved here last year alone in 2022. Oh, wow. But over the lifetime of the ministry, we've given over 750,000 pregnancy tests, 750,000 women walking into your clinics, 200,000 of them plus have chosen life. And so, we're populating cities here together on the Matt Murphy Show. It's awesome.
Look, Dan, if we clog the Nashville roadways with more automobiles in the next 15 or 20 years, I think it's a blessing. It's a wonderful thing. I'll get down on my knees and thank God for that because it is an absolute blessing that you are here. I appreciate and I'm honored to be associated with Preborn. And I just want to thank you for your time talking to the listening audience in and around Middle Tennessee. And just one more time, let folks know how they can open their hearts to love and give as they can. I might have lost Dan right at the end. I can do it, though. Dan, I put him on hold, so check with Dan. But I can do this on my own because I do it on a daily basis. It's preborn.com/Matt. $28 will give a gift of life. And 80% of the time, Mama will choose life when she sees that ultrasound. And I just found it particularly important to get Dan on the line this day. Particularly important because of the impact of the mission. And by the way, it's an organization that's of a charitable nature. And I absolutely love a charitable organization that you go to their website and you will see their annual report. That right there on their website, the 2022 report's right there. So you see all about where the money's going. Preborn.com/Matt. 2:30, we'll check in at the southern border. We'll tell you what the weather's doing and a ruling coming in from the Parkland shooting deputy. You know, the guy that stayed outside? They were charging him and there's a verdict in, and if Mac doesn't tell you what it is, I will. Here's news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.231, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories and some gloomy skies outside. All of Middle Tennessee in a severe thunderstorm watch until 4 p.m. today. Right now, it looks like the mainstream has subsided. No warnings in effect right now, and that ground stop over at B&A is still in effect. Got the full weather forecast coming up in just a minute. The U.S. Supreme Court is gutting affirmative action programs in college admissions today. The court said in a 6-3 opinion that the programs at Harvard and North Carolina violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment by admitting students based on race rather than a student's individual qualities. And over in France, a police officer in a Paris suburb is now facing a preliminary charge of voluntary homicide after the deadly shooting of a 17-year-old that's triggered 2 nights of protests. Here's more from Tom Rivers.
Under French law, preliminary charges mean judges have strong reason to suspect wrongdoing, but allow time for further investigation before a decision is made on whether to send the case to trial. The chief prosecutor, meanwhile, says his initial probe has led him to conclude that conditions for the legal use of the weapon were not met. The killing came during a traffic stop. The incident, captured on video, has shocked the country and stirred long-simmering tensions between police and young people.
And some Titans news. Projected starting offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere has been suspended for 6 games this upcoming season for violating the gambling policy in the NFL. That policy details that you're not allowed to do any betting on the grounds of an NFL facility and never allowed to bet on anything NFL related. Petit-Frere is adamant that he did not bet on NFL games and that he was unaware that he wasn't allowed to place bets at the Titans facility. 3 other NFL players were also suspended today, but those were for the entire season. And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief is about to get another scheduled appointment. Why? Because I've not been for a hot minute, and I'm feeling a little tension, a little tightness in my lower back, and I have to get ready for pickleball. I mean, I've got a big competition coming up between myself and Dan Mandis. I want to make sure that the back and every other part that moves is as right as rain, and I know how to do it. The Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief in Franklin. They're preventative in nature in terms of preventing future and further ailments with your back, pain within your back. They've been doing it for a long time, too. Over 30 years, the Dr. Gill Center's been around. Dr. Gill handpicked his team of chiropractors and experts, and they can help you alleviate the pain in your back, in your neck, in your knees, in your elbows, in your joints, without the need for surgery, of course, and without the need for pills or painful needles. Go to the Dr. Gill Center, and for less than $50, $49, you get a complete examination, a checkup, x-rays, and a results right there on the spot, and they'll review what they can do to alleviate your pain. 615-882-4838, 882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back and Pain Relief in Franklin. Hey, it's Matt Murphy. I'm planning a visit to the GlockStore, not just for my training. I'm talking to Dan about that. More on that in just a moment. But I'm also planning a visit where you can come out and see me broadcast live at the world-famous GlockStore. That's later on in the month of July. Be on the lookout for more information on that. The GlockStore is big and bright with 35,000 square feet, 4 dedicated tactical shooting rooms, not lanes, rooms. They specialize, of course, in Glocks. After all, the name is GlockStore, but they have a huge selection of firearms, accessories, ammos, and performance parts galore. They manufacture many of those parts right there on site. They also train you in their Shoot 270 rooms. Go to shoot270.com for more information about memberships to that, and join me as I get my training done at the world-famous GlockStore. That's right. Dan and I are about to schedule several sessions, and there's a couple of things going on that I will be telling you about that I can't wait for, including whether or not you can outshoot Matt Murphy. It's all to come from the world-famous GlockStore. Go by and see them just off Elm Hill Pike on Airlane Drive. Minutes within the sound of my voice. Find directions and more at GlockStore.com. That's GlockStore.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 238, almost 239. Busy. Lots going on today. I admit that I have not followed the Parkland shooting deputy trial with a keen eye. There's just been so much going on. But the Parkland shooting, the deputy that was on site, and this is well documented, who remained outside and did not engage the shooter in any fashion, chose to stay outside. He was on trial for his negligence. I don't know what the specific charges were. I can look these things up, but he's been found not guilty on all counts. Ultimately, it has been determined over and over again through the courts that police have broad discretion about what level of exposure that they're willing to engage in order to save other people. And sadly, this Parkland shooting deputy will be judged by the American people for the rest of his life for what he did, and more importantly, what he did not do. It is a sad reality that none of us know. And even if you go through the training of a police officer, even if you go through that level of stress, I don't know that even police officers know what they would do. Ask Uvalde. Ask the officers in Uvalde. They were told to stand down, and they followed orders. What do you got, Bill?
He was charged with 7 counts of neglect of a child and 3 counts of culpable negligence and 1 count of perjury for lying to the investigators during the investigation. It was basically surrounding everyone that was hurt or killed on the 3rd floor, which occurred after he had arrived.
Right. Because he didn't go in and engage.
Right. He did not go in and engage the shooter. There were a lot more deaths, but those were on the 1st floor that occurred before he had arrived on scene.
Right. Got you. Well, you know what? I would have to, before I formulate an opinion, I would have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on some of the legal issues at play here. But I would ultimately say that you're in a dangerous place if you begin charging police officers with negligence and whatnot because they have a failure to save. Although, once again, sometimes things are not criminal offenses, but we all see what we see and we know what we know. And he has to live with that for the rest of his life. Pamela Furr is on the Murphy Show hotline. She is at the southern border. I'm excited to hear from her, and I know she's got limited time right now as we jump over there. And thank you, Pamela, for shifting times around. How are you? How's it going?
Buenos dias.
I bet there's a lot of that going down there. Where are you exactly?
I am in McAllen, Texas, and there are a lot, which is right next door to Mission, Texas, which is right next door to, I have learned that all the towns kind of spread out because Texas is just so big. So all the little towns are just right here together, little border towns. That's where I am. And I also like to call it the first circle of hell. It is really, really hot. 1,000 degrees out here.
Yeah, right. My grandpa, I thought of you when you, I know you posted a Twitter post in that regard, and I thought of you. My grandpa used to say, when it was really hot, he said, this might not be hell, but hell's got to be right around the corner.
Right, exactly.
What is, in your experience since you've been there, and I know you're there with Americans for Prosperity, I mean, what has the experience been like? What have you learned, or if anything?
Sure. Well, it's certainly been educational. I've gotten to see, I mean, I've been not only at a border wall, but even beyond that border wall. And so it's been interesting to see the differences. Here, you can point out that was George W. Bush's wall. Then you can look and see where Governor, his name just left me, the current Texas governor, Greg Abbott. There we go.
Yeah,
you can see his border wall, and then you can see the Trump border wall, and it's huge compared to everybody else's wall. That really is the truth. But as technology has changed too, the border walls have changed, and then you have these huge open areas that cause problems for Border Patrol agents. The other thing, and I know I've heard these numbers before, but when you're down here, it puts it in perspective. You know, New York City has over 50,000 police officers that patrol that city. Our borders, and I mean all the borders, northern border, southern border, the ports of entry in California and the East Coast, we only have 19,000 Border Patrol agents for the entire country. I mean, put that into perspective here. And then when you're talking about all of those that are coming in and out of our northern border, our southern border, I don't know why we send another dime of money to Ukraine when we should be hiring more Border Patrol for the North and the South. It really puts it into perspective down here. But it also has put into perspective the humanitarian crisis that we have. And I know there are some really vicious cartel-like people that are getting through at the border, but you also have families that are getting through the border. So I have learned that there are many charitable organizations here in McAllen and other towns here that really step up and try to help those families that have come across. You have a lot of children that are across that are not attached to parents at all. 14-year-old girls with their 2-year-old baby brother or two-year-old baby sister. So it's a combination of policy issues, and it's a combination of just humanitarian issues. It's really eye-opening.
I would think, and obviously I don't know, and I'm not there on the ground, and I don't know if you've had an opportunity or will have the opportunity to speak to any Border Patrol agents, because I think by and large what we hear is that they do their best, but they're just overrun and overwhelmed, and there's just nothing else that they can do. Can you get a sense of their morale? I got to feel like it's got to be low.
The morale is low. At the same time, they do this because they believe it's their calling to keep our country safe, or their own homeland, which is here. Their homeland is Texas, you know. So, but that is their calling. That is their mission. But yes, it is very frustrating. Now, I will also tell you, right now, things seem to have eased up a bit, but I think if I would have asked them that same question a month ago, their morale would have been extremely low and their anger extremely high at the policies that have failed with this administration that has caused these problems. I will say this too, they are very thankful for states who have sent National Guard troops here. Now, National Guard troops, they don't have any kind of authority, any arresting authority. They can't shoot anybody. They can't, nothing like that. But it eases up the pressure on Border Patrol so the National Guard can do all the processing, the administrative work, and it frees the Border Patrol to actually guard. You know what I mean? They're the ones that can arrest. They're the ones that can shoot those that are doing bad things there at the border.
How many more days?
So they're very thankful.
How many more days are you there?
I'm here the rest of the day. I'm about to get off this bus. I'm the only one on the bus. Everybody else has gone in to the Catholic charity. So earlier today, it was looking at the border, talking. We talked to a guy who's in charge of water for McAllen. so it comes from the Rio Grande River, right? And he talked about all the bodies that wash up in that reservoir that they have to pull out of people trying to get through. I mean, they have a border wall underwater, believe it or not, but people still kind of get through anyway, trying to swim across. And so, yeah, you have a lot of dead bodies. So that was interesting. So we got to see that part. The humanitarian side now is this afternoon. So I'm about to go into this Catholic Charities building and see some of these families, and we're actually going to do some volunteer work.
Well, I know you've got a boogie, but here's hope. It's getting 100 tomorrow, but only 99 Saturday. So, I'm looking at the forecast for McAllen, Texas. So, 100 today, 100 tomorrow, 99 Saturday.
Well, if I may say this, there's been some criticism online of this trip because we have lawmakers here. We have some members of our Tennessee delegation here on the state side, like Jeremy Faison is here, Boyd Clark is here. I mean, there are quite a few here, a state senator here, several. And then we have lawmakers from Kansas, from Florida, from South Dakota. Actually, on this trip, there's about 50 of us. People are asking online, is this a stunt? The state lawmakers can't do anything. And I beg to differ because once these folks are processed, whether they're legal or illegal, they're coming to our state. They're coming to our areas and they're putting burdens on our sheriff's departments. You know this, our police departments. And so it is a state issue. And there are more things that we can do as a state to actually help down here at the border. 100 troops that Governor Lee sent, that's good, but that's a pebble in an ocean. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There's a lot more that we could probably do. And I have to tell you, they really like the idea. I'm talking about the people here at the border of this talk of impeaching Alejandro Mayorkas. And that's one thing that Congressman Mark Green has been talking about doing. And I see why. I mean, we have failed here, not just at this border, but the entire southern border. When I'm hearing stories, I'm going to walk into Catholic Charities, but I'm hearing all the Chinese that are actually inside, Chinese families, but other Chinese folks. It's not just Mexico, and I don't think people have a handle on that yet. It's not just Mexico that's getting across.
It must just be incredible, and hearing you relate it is pretty incredible in and of itself. It must be incredible seeing it with your own eyes.
It really is.
You can really get a feel for it. So, all right, we won't keep you any longer. Thank you for the report. Tell us tomorrow if you can, okay?
I'll be home tomorrow, so I may stop by Bold Patriot.
Yeah, come on by. We'd love to see you. I'll kick some of the dust off of the tires. Well, I mean, with a beer, so to speak. I don't think that's a phrase, but I just made it up.
You're not allowed to drink.
I'm not drinking. Thank you. But Pamela can have one if she likes. You need to get your volume up there, Mr. President.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah, how about this? How about let's talk about this one too, Mr. President. Joe Biden responding to the decision today by the United States Supreme Court. You know what? Democrats believe in our constitutional republic and our three separate and equal branches of government until they rule against them, and then they say garbage like this.
I know today's court decision is a severe disappointment to so many people, including me. But we cannot let the decision be a permanent setback for the country.
Did you see? By the way, I'm going to comment on how weak he sounds here. But here's the other money quote. Hold on, here, come on, Joe.
The Congressional Black Caucus said the Supreme Court has thrown into question its own legitimacy. Is this a rogue court?
This is not a normal court.
You hear what he said there? He paused. He was walking away from the podium, and this questioner, one of the reporters, asked him,
"Is this a rogue court?"
Asked him, "Is this a rogue court?" I'm not pausing this. I'm going to let her ask the question again.
This is not a normal court.
And he considered how to answer that, and he said, this is not a normal court, which begs the follow-up question. Of course, she was not able to ask it because he left the room. What is a normal court, Joe Biden? Is Dobbs v. Jackson, was that a normal court decision? Was some of the other decisions that slap it around some of these Democrats that are overextending their authority, are those normal court decisions? Or perhaps no? This is not a normal court. It's certainly a part of the normal process. You guys seem to like democracy until it smacks you in the face. Then you don't like it very much anymore.
Well, it's a normal court when they give rulings that he likes. That should be normal. That should be the norm.
That's what he would say, yes.
They say things I like, that's normal. They say things I don't like, that's abnormal.
Yeah, but getting back to this original quote, this man sounds weaker and more infirm by the day. Did you see the storyline where he had these markings on his face? I mean, visible markings on his face. And to the point that the White House was asked about it, and they said it was a CPAP machine. He wears a CPAP nightly. Now, a lot of people wear a CPAP. I'm not knocking that. But I would need to talk to a medical doctor, but there's something going on. You wore a CPAP last night, and the lines of the CPAP have not diminished from your face. How tight is that thing, man?
Jill tightens it up during
probably so.
Stuff with the snoring.
I mean, I don't know. How tight is the thing? Or that indicates a health issue where your body's not snapping back. I mean, where your blood's not circulating properly. And then you get this voice, which
I know today's court decision is a severe disappointment to so many people, including...
I mean, do you hear how sad he sounds? How infirm? I know today's Supreme Court decision is extreme. I mean, man, oh, man. More coming up on The Drive with Brian Wilson. I'm certain he's going to cover all of these stories and so much more, getting you home in the proper fashion. What with the rain moving about. Tomorrow, we're at Bold Patriot Brewing starting at 3 o'clock until 7, and I invite you to kick off the 4th of July celebration with us at Bold Patriot on Charlotte Pike. Until then, yes.
Who fills in for you tomorrow?
Dez? No.
Cameron?
Cameron.
Okay.
Dez, 9 to noon. Cameron Smith, noon to 3. Matt Murphy in for Brian Wilson, 3 to 7. That's tomorrow from Bold Patriot Brewing Company. Until then, so long.